the effects we're seeing right now that are because of our overconsumption, essentially, of animal products?
Yes, it's a great question because the food system puts pressure on the environment, but the environment is what we need for food to grow food. And so in my work, we often look at how climate change and environmental and biodiversity loss is driving the changes in the food system. And what we see is quite worrying. So over time, we've underestimated the impacts on climate change. And so the chances of losing large amounts of crops around the world, for example, goes up quite dramatically as the temperature warms. So, for example, just to give one example, we would expect a big drop in yields once every 16 years last century, because we'd always have bad years where lots of
Yeah.
different crops around the world get hit. Well, at 1.5 degrees, one paper estimates that goes up to once every 3 years. So you get that big decline once every 3 years, and every other year at 2 degrees. And then I think the biggest thing that I worry about, that's the food prices. Because I think what people need to understand is that as we start to see these impacts on climate change unfold like this, on the food climate change on the food system, the prices start to go up because it's harder and harder to keep meeting that demand for the food. And so, for example, in the UK, some estimates suggest that in 2023, about a third of all the food price inflation we saw was due to climate change. Either we're going to get ahead of the issue and we're going to go to all plant-based diet, which, by the way, is so much healthier for us, and that's what a lot of people care about. I mean, they care less about the environmental side; they want to feel more healthy, and it's true that it is so much more healthy. Or we can wait for climate change to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And we're going to have to go that way anyway because plants are much more efficient. And so the animal agriculture just becomes so much more expensive that we can't afford it. But that'll be sort of an unplanned way of doing it that nobody really wants.